right. Welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Draxtor Dupre. I played a little music here for the YouTube audience. It's a tune called Dark Hours and Lighter Years. We have our three free for all. And let me see if there's anybody showed up. Oh yeah, few people showed up. Monkey, the Resistor, Grisia Rauten, Shiloh the Supergecko, Water, Isabel Sharon Flenser, Xaf Prime, Paradise Quixote, Little Brett, and Stranger Nightfire. And here in the corner is Moon. Now, excuse me, we're gonna have a nice tight hour. Oh, look, Xaf Prime, first time caller, long time listener, or whatever they say. Um, Good to see some new people here, and please everybody welcome Grisia Routen. He's 6 days old. 6 days old. Damn, so young. We were all so young. Okay, so just before the actual stream, I mentioned a book that I did not prepare, um, but I read it this last week. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Maybe Monkey, you can look this up real quick. It's called Operation Gladio. Also on YouTube, there's a pretty good documentary and a short documentary. And Operation Gladio is a book about a secret, super secret CIA operation after World War II, where the Americans collaborated with neo-fascists who were paid millions and millions of dollars to stay behind, hidden on the ground in Western Europe, to be ready if the Soviet Union would send over troops to take over Europe and turn us all into communists. So it was anti-communist hysteria that led to the Americans to collaborate with really really bad folks on the ground, who of course did their own thing, grabbed a lot of money, and like I said earlier, all this stuff was very very secret. So there was no official funding. It was all financed through drug money, and the icing on the cake is that the money was washed through the Vatican Bank. And in the Operation Gladio book, you see a lot of this kind of stuff. How it was also known in the highest circles in the Catholic Church. Really quite fascinating. And another wrinkle in this, and people actually did die because there were several terrorist attacks from these neo-fascists that blamed it on left-wing folks. Uh, they were not so much perpetrated in any country other than Italy, because Italy they were most afraid because Italy had a very popular communist party that won big in elections, and so that accelerated there. Also, Operation Gladio operated in Turkey with the Grey Wolves in Turkey, a neo-fascist group, and surprise in Latin America, because liberation theology, look it up, was also seen as a huge threat, especially by the Catholic Church. So we'll talk about this more maybe in detail next time. Oh, I forgot we also have a cat here today, Meow, Meow Wee. Sorry, hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome, wonderful cat, wonderful new book cat nerd. I want to know if you crocheted or stitched this outfit yourself, or if somebody else did that. So yeah, um, like I said earlier, this is an experiment because I said I didn't prepare anything for today. I did a little bit, and Shyla is going to read from a Native American poet. Very exciting. I did prepare a few things because I saw that the book Gravity's Rainbow, it has its 50th anniversary this year, Thomas Pynchon. But I thought uh, I would like to have some audience participation, and I would like to open the floor to you guys asking me questions. Like it's a ask me anything type of situation. Ask me anything is very popular on a thing called Reddit. Now, since I'm really old, I don't know what that is, but you tell me. Anyway, if anybody wants to ask me a question, I am, of course, an expert in reading, and I'm an expert in books. I'm an expert in purchasing books as well. I'm an expert in purchasing new books as well as old books. I'm an expert in forgetting which books I own, so I'm buying the same one. I'm also an expert in going to the little free library and grabbing a copy of Animal Farm with a cool cover from the 70s. But I go home and I realize I have Animal Farm, like 5 editions of it, and then I feel bad about that I took that one, and feel bad because I took something from someone who may have read it, but then I go like, you know what? Nobody's gonna read this because it looks really old, but it has a cool cover. So I have 5 copies of Animal Farm. You know what? I might actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll take it back. I also have five or 6 copies of Brave New World, which I think is really a must read. Oh, did I mention Flenza Jürgens is here as well? Flenza Jürgens. Look at Flenza Jürgens. Hello, Flenza. Full screen. So, how about the ask me anything? Or do I have to ask myself questions? Let's see here. Let's look at comments. Little Brett says, I sometimes end up buying the same book as well, but usually not a problem because I use them as gifts. Absolutely. I see nothing wrong. And again, I see nothing wrong with having the same copy because I mean, there's a lot of people. If you look on BookTube, the book content stuff on YouTube, so a lot of people. There's one sci-fi guy. He goes on. He also has kind of an eBay business, but he goes around buying used books, and he has like so many different editions, and it's awesome. And he's an expert on like. He's always like, oh, the British edition has much better paper, and look at this cover and stuff like that. So that is something that I love. And if you have this, of course. Oh, Grisia, since I'm a newcomer, can I ask questions? Absolutely. Matter of fact, uh, newcomers are more allowed to ask questions. Let's look at the comments. Resistor says, I repeat my question. I'm looking for a trusted shipping of Hasha by Baby. You're looking for a trusted shipping of Hasha by Baby. I don't know. Uh, I'm not Amazon. Uh, or Book Depository for that matter. Um, yeah, you have to look at who makes that available. Little Brad says I have 5 different copies of Alice in Wonderland, 3 copies of Alice Through the Looking Glass. Oh my God! And what's different? Covers, illustrations. Oh, you have 5 different copies, like physical copies? That is amazing.
Have five different copies because one I one copy I got from America from a friend, and another copy is from a secondhand store I work at. It has like pictures,
Hmm.
and another copy I has like copies of original drawings or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Some copies have the original drawings. I think I have one of those. Uh-huh. And so these you wouldn't give away, right?
Yeah, never, never. I'm an Alice in Wonderland fan, so they're not going anywhere.
This seems to be your favorite book, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Why?
for sure. Why? I don't know. I like fairy tales and it's full of odd characters.
I mean, I think Alice in Wonderland is really a super important book that everybody should have or read or attempt to read. It's almost to me like it's in the same category. Obviously, it's a lot earlier than the Never-Ending Story. Those kind of stories where a person goes into a different world, a world that is kind of off with um, characters that are a little dangerous and kind of scary, but also intriguing. That kind that it's that's just the the best kind of story. I mean, this is really kind of also what the Second Life experience is. You go somewhere where people are maybe a little crazy, but they're also kind of intriguing. So, okay, so wait a minute. Zaf Prime here. Zaf Prime asked, I was very surprised to see and curious to hear how you've come across Ray Bradbury's works. This is an interesting question. Why? Because I'm not sure if I advertised. I'm no Ray Bradbury. I'm not a Ray Bradbury expert at all, and I don't know. What do you mean by you're surprised to see and curious to hear how you come across Ray Bradbury's work? But I want to talk about Ray Bradbury. So, uh, yeah, let me preface this by reiterating I'm not a Ray Bradbury expert. I haven't read everything. I have read actually very few things, but Ray Bradbury is amazing what I've read of him, and I certainly am aware of his stature, of his importance. Now, I have read a bunch of short stories. I actually have a short story collection with Christmas themed stories, which is really cool. And there's one, but I can't recall the plot, so I'm not going to even attempt. I remember it was really cool. But let me talk about, in my mind, what is actually one of the most important speculative fiction books, certainly among the top 10, which is, of course, Fahrenheit 451. And Fahrenheit 451, I have to say, everybody has to read this. Everybody has to read Fahrenheit 451. There's no way around it. It is so incredibly important today. It's one of those books that never loses its important. It just increases its importance. And I'll give you a little plot summary. Um, Let me try to play bookseller here. And you're coming into my store and you're saying like, okay, what is I only have time for one sci-fi book, a classic, and I go like, okay, here it is, and then you ask me like, okay, why? What's the deal? And then I will explain it. But before I'll give you the pitch, why this is so important. So I am currently in Germany, and we lived in California for a long time in a small town called Salinas. Salinas is of course very famous because John Steinbeck was born there. Sammy Hagar was born there, and my son. So three important people. Nobody else is important there, but these three people. So I visited Salinas 2019 and to old stomping grounds. Went to the house of neighbor and the young son, the brother of the guy my son grew up with. Aiden, I said, so Aiden, what are you reading? And they're big, like their grandfather is like completely addicted to fantasy novels. He has like his whole house full of fantasy books. It's completely insane. And Aiden says like, "Oh yeah, I'm reading this." I always ask the kids, "What are you reading?" And he says, "Oh, I gotta read like Fahrenheit 451 in school. Is so boring. What kind of bullshit is that?" And I go like, "Really? You think like that's just weird? You can't relate to it?" And he goes like, "No, I don't understand what's going on. I mean, why are people so concerned?" And then I had, one of these incredibly gratifying conversations with a young person when you can relate to them why this text is has should have resonance with them, and their eyes go up and go like, oh wow, yeah, now I get it. And I was, I'm starting to talk like, okay, so can you imagine somebody just comes here and uh gets all your books and puts them on a big pile and burns these books, or like your games or your toys? And Aiden says like, "Oh my God, no, that's crazy." I was like, "Can you imagine that your mother or your father doesn't talk to you anymore, but just stares into a screen all day and talks to people on the other side of the screen?" In essence, what we're doing right now. And he says, "No, I don't understand. No, that would be crazy." I go like, "Well, these are the two big plot points in this future scenario. In this future, that Ray Bradbury here depicts." I'm looking at the text. Saf Rhyme says, "This is your reaction via Twitter." I'm glad to hear that you're familiar with Fahrenheit 451. See, Dandelion Wine, I didn't read that. I gotta put that on. Thank you for mentioning that. Um, Bernard Herrmann's music. I'm not sure what that means, Flenser, but uh, did I talk about Ray Bradbury on Twitter? I forget. But anyway, let me give you a little plot summary for Fahrenheit 451. So in this future scenario, the fire department does not put out fires, it starts fires, it burns books. And one of the the main protagonist, a firefighter by the name of Montag, he just does his job, because he doesn't know anything. It's just what he does. And he meets this resistance fighter, and she kind of opens his eyes about how wrong this is, what they're doing, that they are destroying knowledge. Um, and that, in fact, the fire department had a very different role back in the olden days. And so he himself becomes basically a resistance fighter. And then he goes underground. And the ending scene is one of the most beautiful scenes ever depicted. And it's hard for me. I kind of want to give it away. I mean, you really got to read it. But just think about this: when all the books are gone and only a few books are left, because most books have been burned, and only a few books are left. There's only one copy left, and you want to relate the story of this book to your friends. How do you do that? Think about that. How would you go about that? Imagine a world where you are in this community with 50 people and there's 30 books and only one copy is left, and you have to keep them hidden at all times. How would you make sure that this text lives on? And that's kind of the idea how this book ends. Now, what I mentioned earlier in this conversation with this young person, Aiden, who had to read this in school, one other among many really cool uh, things that are happening in this story is a type of interactive television show, an interactive sitcom, where the people who are watching the show, they can interact with the actors in that pre-recorded TV broadcast. It's almost like um, yeah, it's like what we talked last time, full motion video, or that Black Mirror episode, or choose your own adventure in video form, where you are standing at home and you're looking at your big screen television and there's a story happening, and then the actors, they engage you as the viewer in that story, and depending on what you say, you move the story into a different direction, and that kind of gets people addicted, um, and sort of an entertainment addiction. Yeah, Fahrenheit 451. And Dandelion Wine is going to be on my list. Thank you. That's awesome. Now I'm looking at this tweet. Oh yeah, I tweeted that a long time ago. Number two of my 10, I guess, most important books.
Another thing I note that I remember that Bradbury worked into that was a sense of dread, almost I remember feeling when he described the jet engines, like the, the roar of jets flying over in the sky all the time, which was his reference to the fact that there was a state of constant war going on.
Yeah. Yeah, the background is
Which certainly
important too.
rings true today, too, when we are living in the age of endless war.
Yeah, I forgot that. See, it's time to reread that. So, Stranger, do you want to talk a little bit about other aspects of this world he creates there? Like, what's the backdrop that
Well,
these
I was just
protagonists?
thinking I don't remember it all that well, but I do remember that for me I remember that part because it hit me back when I read it first,
Right.
in my high school days that there was just that sense of the eerie drone of the bomber jets flying over all the time and all, but it was like he doesn't go into any much detail about what's going on in that sense geopolitically in that world, but there is that idea that. which was also in 1984. There was always had to be constant war, an enemy always to have the people fear.
That is to me very brilliant world building. I mean, there's so many different styles, but that kind of world building that just creates like you say, a sense of dread, a sense of yeah, just that there is something going on, constant conflict, and versus a very sort of detailed enemy. I mean, this is to me very. My hat is always off to people authors who can create that atmosphere without being specific about the type of conflict, and you as a reader don't feel like, oh, this is like a cop out that they're not specific. You know what I mean? Because some authors that don't have the who are not as good with their craft, sometimes you go like, okay, I need more specifics, this makes no sense. And other authors, they can just sort of create that mood where you immediately are thrown in there without them telling you anything about the specificity of the conflict. um
As far as that thing and what they're having to be an enemy, do you remember? Are you familiar with the Twilight Zone? Are you
yeah,
watch the
no,
old
I
Twilight Zones?
not all of it. I'm not an expert.
Well,
Try,
no, I
yeah.
probably haven't, but well, there's one really notable one. I think, I'm not the only one who thinks this about this particular episode. There's one with the name of it is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
Ah.
And it's set in a, small town America, little
Mm-hmm.
average American town, like, and I think I don't remember it all that clearly either now, but I do somehow at the beginning there's been some odd thing seen in the sky, like a little, nothing very specific, but just, or like an odd light around and outside the town or whatever. And then there's been a power outage. There's a power outage going on, and the people are neighbors are coming out and gathering and talking about what the hell's going on, and they talk themselves further and further into hysteria and
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theories and whatnot. And there's one kid who's a comic book fan or whatever who brings up extraterrestrials, and eventually has them all thinking, we're being invaded, and then it comes up the fact that like, isn't it? It looks like the people in this one, this these not so friendly people in town are not as well known, more recent arrivals, and their house they don't seem they look like they've got power.
Mm-hmm.
They must be the enemy. They must be part of the you know
They're the only
the
ones who have
agents of
power,
the
yeah.
alien invasion and whatnot. So it just builds up and up this whole sense of fear and whatnot. And then at some point, I know that it leads up to a climax or the end when some guy's just walking down the street towards them and they just shoot him,
Mm-hmm.
hardly not even knowing yet who he is, but they're in such fear they just shoot him. And at the end, it cuts to another scene, which is somewhere like in the outskirts of the town. There's this like flying saucer landed and two extraterrestrials watching all this taking place on a monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying to each other, see, we don't even have to fight them. We just get them to wipe each other out. They're such,
I've never, oh my God. Yeah, I have it here on Wikipedia.
yeah.
I've never seen that one. Oh my God. Yeah. That is just brilliant. That this is like very also Philip K. Dickish, I guess, like a little bit plot wise. I all my Philip K. Dick stories they blur at the moment because there was one that is kind of similar.
You
Uh,
think again that at that time, the blacklist and all that, McCarthyism was
yeah,
still in effect, so it was kind of actually a kind of brave in a way episode to have
we need
run.
to do a special show about McCarthyism and how that impacted culture in America. I'm looking at the comments here. I'm sure that I don't forget. Little Brett says C.S. Lewis, who wrote Narnia, mixed. the real world and a fantasy world. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, did not in his books. What do you prefer? A mix. Okay, little Brett, is it a question to me? Well, as I have revealed to you guys once when we did like, the most thing that you're most ashamed of, or I don't know what the question was, or the book that you never finished. Wait a minute, is there somebody stuck in the wall? There's somebody stuck in the wall. Birgit Bloom. Somebody please help her. She's stuck here between two worlds is a Uriah Heep song from the 70s. But so little Brett, to answer your question, I have never finished Lord of the Rings because I just found it yeah, it just dragged on and on and on and on and on. And I think we had this question once, like, what book did you never finish, or something, or what people would be surprised or whatever. Um, I The Hobbit was incredibly important. I loved The Hobbit. I read The Hobbit. We read The Hobbit also in school. Actually, we had an art teacher who read The Hobbit to us while we were painting in fifth grade or sixth grade, and that was just the most awesome time ever in art class. It was really cool. He was just reading it, right? I mean, there was no assignment or so. He was just like, okay, listen to me read this, and then you draw whatever you feel like. Uh, Awesome. So then, can the VTuber phenomenon be described like Professor Bernstorff right on his second life? I don't understand the question. Please try to rephrase it. I don't know what the VTuber phenomenon is. So yeah, this is about Tolkien. I like huge books, but I don't know what it was with Tolkien. Moon, I'm assuming this question is for me. You like sci-fi that we know. Do you like horror as well? Well, the thing is, I was a very, very big Stephen King fan when I was 15, 16, 17. It was all about Stephen King. And I read it when it first came out in 87. I reread it recently. It's really interesting when you read it as a teenager and then you read it as a parent. It's actually quite interesting. Grisha, yes, yes. I'll get to you, and you can use the mic and the voice. Yes, absolutely. Let me answer this question. So sci-fi and horror. So right now, Moon, the status that I am as a advanced adult of 52 years of age, I am really very much sort of almost obsessed with what people call the canon, which is the the books that are deemed important, books that stood the test of time by sort of the experts, if you will. And again, this is a huge topic because this sounds very elitist in some sense, but the fact of the matter is there are books like, and let me just name some names. Um, Ulysses, Moby Dick, Don Quixote, books that stood that are still important out, 100 plus years after their publishing, and or Marcel Proust, what is it now? The Remembrance of Time. Jesus Christ, can't even think of the right title. This is also on my top 20 list. And now all this Pynchon that we want to talk about as well. So currently, I am really obsessed with literary fiction, and not only the so-called Western canon. That I find actually quite elitist when uh, literary scholars talk about the Western canon. I think actually it's good that they talk about the Western canon because um, that acknowledges that there are books from other cultural realms that are hugely important. So this is currently my goal to get to all these important books, and I find them immensely satisfying. So this is Remembrance of Things Past. There you go, Monkey. Thank you. Remembrance of Things Past. So all the genre stuff. Oh, Water can say it in French. La recherche du temps perdu. Um, Water is very cultured. I want Water to tell me what the canon is, the fish canon of books. Anyway, I know. So, in a nutshell, right now, I really feel I'm running out of time and I'm looking at my shelf, and there are books that are so important that again, by important I mean they stood the test of time. Thomas Mann, The Magic Mountain, for example, German author. Um, I look at Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I read a lot of Marquez, but I haven't read everything. And this is in conflict with new stuff coming out. So, but this is what life is. Life is curating, and life is unfortunately sometimes realizing that you cannot have it all. And there is really amazing, good new stuff coming out in sci fi, in literary fiction, and other genres that is fascinating. But I have to make that determination to select and curate. So, and so I try to keep a balance between not so much genre when you ask me horror versus sci-fi, whatever, but more about classics versus new releases versus nonfiction. And by nonfiction, I mainly mean social science and history. Those are the things that are of most interest, right? Yeah. Um, what other questions?
You
Resistor
just
says
reminded me of something interesting that I recall that Harlan Ellison got to be a big enough name,
there you go.
that
Harlan Ellison,
that
for
that
example.
that
Yeah.
that he was demanding of his publishers. He insisted, if you're going to publish my novel or whatever, I don't want the word science fiction or anything like
Yeah.
that anywhere on it. He
Yeah.
insisted, even though he was writing science
Well,
fiction.
but that has
He,
changed a lot. I mean, as you know,
yeah.
stranger, this has changed a lot.
Yeah,
And
that's true. That's
sci-fi
true.
is
That
now
was a
so
that was sort of a time at that time, but yeah, but it was just
exactly,
interesting that but there can be other things that are ghettoized or whatever,
absolutely.
as they
But
put it,
right
like
now we
as
have the
genre
phenomenon.
fiction. But yeah,
I I had a guy. I forgot who told me this, but he said like in the sci-fi world, now people are a little miffed. Sci-fi writers that sci-fi is so popular as a genre that like well-known literary authors are just sort of dabbling in sci-fi with some results not so great and some are great. But I want to talk about this a little bit more. Here we go. Resistor said letter horror stories as a teenager, learned there was nothing to fear. Heinlein, real quick. I was mentioning Heinlein. I cannot read Heinlein. To me, Heinlein is cringe worthy in his depiction of uh, I don't want to call him sexist. I find it cringeworthy. I can't. Some stuff does not age well. Let's put it that way. But that's a matter of taste. But talking about people from this era or a little later, Philip K. Dick, for example, the later works of Philip K. Dick, where he was just really, when he had this vision or this hallucination from another world or the Matrix or whatever, there's the Valis trilogy is in my shelf, and I'm looking at it every day. I'm going like, this is transformative stuff. So I'm getting like real anxiety about not having read that Philip K. Dick trilogy. Then I heard a review from a German show from 12 years ago about David Foster Wallace's The Pale King. The Pale King is posthumously issued. David Foster Wallace, as you may know, committed suicide in 2008. David Foster Wallace is one of the absolute giants of modern postmodern literature. Absolutely amazing. Um, Infinite Jest. I read it twice. I could read it. I could live for the rest of my life with only Infinite Jest and rereading it. It's just a world that is has everything for me. But The Pale King, I read it on a plane from Munich to San Francisco. Almost read the whole book, and then I finished it at a hotel. The Pale King is about the Internal Revenue Service, and The Pale King is a work of utter genius. It depicts the boredom of this life that we're leading today in a way. I mean, it is. I don't even want to start. I will not stop. So you hear me get passionate about these books, and with that comes the anxiety because I'm literally thinking like, now I got to read Gravity's Rainbow, talking about Thomas Pynchon, because it's 50th anniversary and it's a must read and it's also a classic. But then I heard this review of The Pale King, and it reminded me that I want to reread The Pale King. Anyway, where were we? Let me see. Grisha wanted to say something in voice. Grisha, go ahead.
Hello, can
Uh,
anyone hear me?
yes, hear you well.
Okay. And I myself might feel some dizzy because it's before dawn for me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No problem.
Uh, okay. And the VTuber phenomenon is currently currently still going on.
Hmm.
That happened beginning from Japan and to the worldwide. Uh, uh, to be honest, this question is not just only about the book of the Professor Borsdorf have written, but a sort of a question to the people all around here. To be honest, that I'm just curious because the VTuber is a kind. If you describe a VTuber, that it is a person who live in the virtual world, but only use one avatar
Hmm.
whatsoever. So I'm just like curious to hear about it because like in Second Life, we all know that there are a lot of avatars to choose from our closet, or I
Yes,
don't know what.
exactly. It is
Yeah.
like a
So,
closet. It's the clothes closet. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. But when we talk about the VTubers, the avatar skin that they cannot change but only to change their outfit, but not the how to say that the avatar itself. So I'm just kind of curious about uh, the peoples around here because like there's such conflicting ideas of what an avatar should be in the virtual world.
This is really an super interesting topic, Risha. Thank you. I mean, it has little to do with books, but I'm very glad that you bring this up. And as you talk, look behind you. Roxy just came in with an amazing avatar. So let me briefly talk about what VTuber. I'm not sure if people know what VTubers are, but VTubers are basically um, 2D avatars that are overlaid over a background, or they're basically streamer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but uh, they're little animated avatars that are in the corner of like a live stream of some sort, as opposed to a actual real life person. And these VTubers are very, very popular. They do all sorts of things. There are cooking shows. Yeah, they're 3D. Some of them grab them from VR chat. But my understanding of the definition of what VTubing is to use um, a 2D avatar as opposed to a real life um, camera shot of you playing a game. So if you're live streaming a game, oh my God, Grisha has completely hijacked the book club to talk about streaming and gaming, but that's okay because it's actually a really interesting subject. Um, let's spend a few minutes on it. No problem. But this is fascinating, and we'll talk later. Because so VTubing is when you look at a stream and you have a guy who's in the corner and he has like a frontal shot of his camera, and you see him playing and go like, oh my God, look at this, and I'm going over here, I'm going to do over that. Yes, Zaf Prime, I'll throw it to you in a sec. So but Grisia, is I guess your question is also like what an avatar should be, because these VTubers are always the same, and in Second Life, people change their avatars all the time. This is a huge topic. I could make 5 more documentaries about it, because in a nutshell, the answer is in Second Life, you have everything and everything under the sun. You have people who change their avatars multiple times a day, and you have people who never change their avatars, who in fact has the same shirt since 2013 for the last 10 years. That would be me. Um, My take on the VTuber, I think the VTuber thing is very cool. I actually have a VTube avatar, a version, a 2D version of myself ready to go for a different idea that I have. I'm not sure if I want to do it, but the reason why the VTubers don't change is, I think, is a branding thing. They look at themselves as a brand. They want to kind of sell that brand. They want to have brand consistency, so they don't change it. That's fine. To me, this is not really interesting. To me, Second Life is much more interesting with all these changes with the creativity. I'm not saying that the VTubers are not creative, but the world itself as a world, I find Second Life much more interesting. Zaf Prime, you wanted to chime in here on this topic? Hello, Hex. Welcome. Take a seat. Zaf, you can use voice. You don't have to. You can just type and I'll read it. But
Yeah, let's see if this works. All right. You put it gently at the start by saying avatars, and VTubers won't change avatars.
oh, Hex is sitting.
It's no
You're
worries, fixed.
very good, very quick. No, go ahead, Zef. Yeah.
Um, VTubers generally won't change their avatars around due to two or multiple reasons. Firstly, being, as you said, it's their persona, it's their brand, so they will not change it. Second would be cost. It is way, way costly to animate all of the separate mechanical stages of a VTube avatar.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Um,
And in Second Life, we have to say it's also like I don't change myself because I am completely identified with myself, and also because I happen to be public and I appear in my own videos. There's a branding argument to be made as well. But even I know that even if I didn't do the videos, I would be just uh, this is just me personally. I would not change. I mean, I would upgrade myself here and there, but I would be very much identified with myself. And Shyla over here, I know Shyla. I mean, Shyla is mostly a gecko, but Shyla has about 300 avatars that she has ready to go. So, but it's interesting, Zaf. I didn't know that it would be costly to change that around, but that's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, when compared to what we do on SL, it definitely is. Typically in Western cultures with avatars, especially like the furry fandom, for example, both the owner and the character are considered to be one and the same person. So we call this our persona or our. It's like a
Persona.
reflection
Hmm.
of persona. Yeah, it's a reflection or projection or avatar of the self, like how we identify or as we see ourselves in the mirror. And as a cross example, in Japanese culture, the kimono culture, the owner and the character are always considered to be separate people to one another.
Hmm.
So as such, they are always addressed accordingly, as if you are standing in front of them. For example, if you were in front of me, I wouldn't address you as Draxtor ever. I would address you by your real name if I was acquainted with you that way.
Hmm. That is fascinating. And I also like that Zaf is in a way saying that we are superior here in Second Life. Those poor VTubers, they're sitting there with their thing and they need. Oh no, it's not. It's not us against them. It's
Oh
cool.
no,
It's a.
definitely not. I was meaning only in terms of cost efficiency
Oh no, no,
to
no.
build an
I'm just
avatar
saying.
here.
I'm playing on my own stereotypes, so people perceive me as trashing everything that is not as hell. I know that there's like a handful of people who think that's my life's goal. It's not my number one life's goal, but I mean, SL is superior. Anyways, uh, Christia is saying that is a great answer. I haven't realized that on a cultural perspective. Yeah, I mean, it's to me really the key with virtual worlds has to be the freedom to express yourself without limits. So that needs to be number one, and the avatar is the biggest piece. If worlds or games restrict that, and I think that that is because you mentioned VR chat, and I have said many times VR chat is, I think, the closest to SL in whatever the call that category, next generation virtual worlds, VR worlds, whatever, headset compatible worlds, because it kind of allows that. If you guys don't mind, I would like to bring this back to books because Shyla has prepared a little reading, and this is the book club. But Grisha, this is a subject matter that I would like to explore. I mean, I am exploring this, and please IM me with an email, and Xaf Prime you as well. Might as well just say that people can contact me because my day job at as a Linden Lab contractor is to make videos to reflect SL culture, and I have a lot of freedom to shape these videos, choose the subject matter, and frame these videos how I see fit. It's a wonderful relationship where they trust me with this, so people can reach out to me at any time with an idea of a place, an activity, a person, a creative person. They can talk about themselves. They can say, "Hey, I do this." Don't be shy. Don't feel like self-promoting or whatever. If you feel what you're doing, or even if you feel like what you're doing is nothing, here you go. Zaf Prime is sending me the message. That's awesome. Um, and I'll email you and you tell me a little bit what you do, because again, this is my job to be on the ground and find interesting stories, interesting projects, and my dilemma is I find everything interesting, and I will find something interesting about you, even if you think you're not interesting. So trust me. Um, so Shyla has brought. Oh, very briefly, we're talking about. I want to talk about Thomas Pynchon Gravity's Rainbow. Here, it's here on the screen. Gravity's Rainbow, and I'm gonna read a little synopsis. Oh, wait a minute, Shyla, you sent me this collage of other covers. Collage, here we go. Let's put this up. So, Gravity's Rainbow is a massive, massive, crazy, crazy novel that is supposed to be super complex. Came out in 1973, and it's by Thomas Pynchon. And people have now gathered that Thomas Pynchon. I'm obsessed with Thomas Pynchon as of late, and I want to read everything. I had this book in my shelf for a long time. I haven't read it, but I'm going to read it this summer. Let me tell you what Gravity's Rainbow is all about. Gravity's Rainbow, the narrative is set in Europe at the end of World War II and centers on the design, production, and dispatch of V-2 rockets by the German military. In particular, it features the quest undertaken by several characters to uncover the secret of a mysterious device called the Schwarzgerät, Black Device, which is slated to be installed in a rocket with the serial number 00000. And now it gets interesting here. Plot. Pirate Prentice, an employee of the Special Operations Executive, first in his dreams and later around the house in wartime London that he shares with several other spooks, he is driven to a site of a V-2 rocket strike, and his associate Teddy Bloat photographs a map depicting the sexual encounters of U.S. Army Lieutenant Tyrone Slothrop, an employee of a fictional technical intelligence unit, Achtung. Slothrop and his background are detailed. I'm reading this off, I shouldn't read this off Wikipedia. Basically, the sexual exploits of Slothrop, um, they they find out that his sexual exploits coincide with the rocket launches. That is at the surface of the plot. And then it goes wacky from there. And it's all about conspiracy, about spooks, um, and about the relationships with the Germans, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Um, I haven't read it. I am. Oh, Stranger is has become an alien. Uh, this I have read of Thomas Pynchon V, his first novel, his last novel or his latest novel, Bleeding Edge. and The Crying of Lot 49, which is about a fictional secret post office. Thomas Pynchon is known for mixing high and low culture, of having a lot of references in popular culture. He is known for uh, the plots, um, parapsychological spook, says Stranger. Yes, he is known for having plots that involve multiple conspiracies. And oh, Water here. Has Water read it? Water says the V2 strike in streets where this officer has had sex with a girl in London. Yes, Water is very well read. So if anybody wants to read along with me, I will start this book in July, uh, probably mid-July. I have to check the calendar when the last book club show is. And I was again very conflicted, but Water says it's exceedingly funny. So, Water, are you saying that you're reading it now? Would you be in a book club together with me, just me and you, for the summer? But then you're a little far, you're far ahead. Maybe that's not so bad. And then we both read it. Stranger? Okay, Water. Then you have to bring it back
I've
out.
never finished it myself.
Come
I've
on.
read
Then
about
we'll do it together. We'll motivate each other. We'll do just 20 pages a day or something. We can do it.
the thing is with it, it's not only a very long book, it's written in a weird stream of consciousness, style. It's not written in ordinary,
That's see, but that to me,
English sentences and such, which so it's actually an effort each page as you read it. You get great value out of reading it. It's like you love everything you've read, but you're still struggling to go on reading because it's maybe even somewhat deliberately hard to read.
you're talking to the person who this is when I go to in a store and you would be the seller and you sell something to me, I would say this is exactly what I want. This is
It's
exactly what I
you
want.
could say it's on the spectrum towards Finnegan's Wake. It's not that obscure or difficult, but it's that kind of experimental writing.
That is awesome. I'm telling you, if you start on the Pale King about the IRS, this is probably similarly. And don't forget, America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots. I, th- you're selling me something that I would buy tenfold. This sounds incredibly enticing. So Water, maybe I'll remind you. And uh, Water says Gravity's Rainbow is too dense. Shyla, let's go to our special reading. You discovered this author. I want to close with this. Tell us a little bit about this author who is here on stage. This image. Her name is Alison Adele Hedgecock.
Yes, and she is from the Midwest uh, nations, tribal nations in the United States. And I want to read a couple of things. One is she did a lot of, uh, she helped Iowa State understand the mounds. Here where I live in Illinois and Iowa and other areas of the Midwest, there are mounds. And the Europeans' uh, uh, education about mounds was that they were from an ancient people, but they weren't. They were, but they were from a people who survived up until their encounters with Europeans. And I'll read this. Upon the first European encounters, as many as 400 mounds existed in upward to 2,300 acres. 276 mounds were surveyed in 1883 over 1,200 acres. Later, only 176 were mapped, still visible, due mostly to looting and physical removal, and later to cropping directly on top of the mounds, now perhaps less than 80 thoroughly diminished mounds remain.
Wait,
The
what are the
desecration.
what were these mounds for the Native Americans in the area?
The poem will actually touch on that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. One moment. There's noise in the background here. So, so the desecration by non-natives has been immense and immensely unnecessary. So this is a poem by Alison Adele Hedgecote from her book Blood Run called The Mounds. Each basketful they bore 1,000 steps more, prayed each stride as they piled earth upon earth to form our bodies, whispering praises to everything that is, will always be. For millennia we made model each rise, fall, sun, moon, immortal, reflecting honored pathways, grandmothers, grandfathers. As we grew, their love for us flourished. Our appearance made resemble pitched earth. With every prayerful glance, acknowledgments ascended. With every ascension, a place on earth mirrored constellations, eternals. With each layer came credence, reverence, nothing. No one then would venture to destroy their purpose, our holy, graceful place upon which you now stand, dignified. Somewhere along the way, the world went inside out, yielding, unfolding, to tools crafted to scrape unbearably ransomed. In this turning, all we have come to hold now exists in jeopardy. So, when I first moved to Illinois, I too was told that these mounds, which when you drive down certain roads, you can see what is Illinois is very flat, and you can see um, these raised pieces of land, and most of them are gone now. But they were built basket by basket, and they were used for ritual, for burial. Um, and she has several poems in here about them and about the culture of the indigenous people here as it relates to the mounds. And I have one other insight. Can I read that? Do we have time, Drax?
Yeah, I want to read real quick here. I found this from the publisher. It says, Blood Run was once a great mound city. About 80 remnants of its
Yes.
original 400 mounds still stand, in testament to the 10,000 people who made their home here time ago and prove a terrific tribute of world history for their descendants living just down the road. Yet Blood Run is still
Yes.
in great danger of being forever destroyed by looters and developers and the plow. Previous to European colonization and conquest efforts, trade flourished between indigenous people of the Americas for perhaps as long as time earmarked humankind. And so these were places of, yeah, where these tribes lived. And
Yeah. They were part of the community and the recent community, not the long ago one.
mhm.
Um, and then I'll read this, which is more about climate than anything else, but I think sometimes we're led to believe that climate change is a new thing. This is from the introduction of an anthology she put together called Sing, which is not just of North American indigenous persons, but of all the Americas. She brought their stories all together because there were many similarities. But this is something she writes in the introduction. When I reached a place with Iroquoian Huron lingual trace, Sandusky, Coldwater, I went over to Erie to sing a bit of thanks there, to remember my familial kinship in the region. On my lakeside walk, an elderly woman motioned to me to sit by her on a bench. She began telling me how the water was when she was young, how they'd skate on it frozen over, and how the lakes don't freeze over anymore, how people could cross the lake at one time on foot. I felt her sadness and concern and recalled huge drifts of snow and thick, thick ice I haven't witnessed much since my youth. The world was changing. Yet the story of ice was still here, the story of crossing and tapped personally by childhood stories of my grandma's coming down through the waters from Quebec and Ontario to Ohio and to Michigan, then Illinois. Little 100-year-old, oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. I went the wrong way. One moment. And eventually to Indian Territory, where one met my grandfather from Mound's ancestry in the southeast, and the two of them united. I remembered stories of rib bones strapped to moccasin soles to skate a lake's long distance, and held the memory of that ascendant pair speaking over 10,000 languages each just to get by in those years. Stories close to my own wanderlust and love for beauty and drive for knowledge wherever it may be. I wondered if Granny had been in this same place herself.
Hmm.
So it's being handed down story to story. It's been going on a long time. That's it.
It's thank you, Shala. It's really powerful to read. Again, this goes back to the question like, what kind of genre do you like and stuff like that. And more so than genres and stuff, when Shala comes to me with this author, Native American authors, I want to read as varied as I can. I want to learn. I read because I want to learn different languages, right? I mean, obviously they're mostly English or German, but different different experiences. I want to be put into different people's heads, um, and different cultural with different cultural backgrounds and that kind of thing. So that to me is important. I still don't quite understand what these mounds really are, but see, now I'm intrigued and uh, and want to find out more. And this is interesting because you sometimes you talk about people and they read for exactly the opposite reason. They just want to kind of be reaffirmed like what they are. They want to see themselves reflected, and that's completely fine as well. Um, and sometimes the problem is that when you have the predominant white male heterosexual person wanting to be reflected in culture, I would say, well, there is actually a lot for you out there already. Maybe it would be good to have different perspectives that are not completely overrepresented. And then some people from that white male heterosexual cohort will get angry and feel that they're not that they're being discriminated against, which of course is laughable yet bizarre. But yeah, thank you, Shyla. Thank you. Um, oh, Bulavi is just walking through here like he's on a run. I want to read this here one more time with these mounds. So we read this. These are some. Okay, so anyway, no, I don't know what these mounds are. I need to find out. I can't just read this and
Sorry, Draxter.
no
The
problem.
lag, the lag got me. Sorry about that.
I thought you're going for your evening run, and then you're like, oh my God, I ran into a building.
Oh my God, this lag is getting me embarrassing.
No problem. No, no, no. We're all like,
Uh,
Schadenfreude does not exist in this realm. Um, but
uh,
folks, I gotta wrap it up. And please, again, I forget to say this often. Please befriend each other, uh, make new friends, and Oh my God, Bulavi's like 2 meters tall. He's taller than me. Look at him. That's because he works out. Uh, I want to say Kitten is watching this. Kitten says she sent me a private message here on Kofi. Um, Draxter, I'm in chat. I'm not doing that well. Kitten, we miss you and we hope you're feeling better soon. And you can always contact us. Thank you for your support, Kitten. Um, Kitten is just watching. She's not even communicating in chat with us today. I'm gonna say hello, Kitten. Um, I'm gonna wrap with the note that next week we have a hilarious guest, and her name is Ginny Hogan, and she's a stand-up comedian. Um, and she is pretty hilarious. I actually wanted to read the introduction, but we're running out of time. Ginny Hogan is going to come to read from her book or talk about her book that with the title "I am more dateable than a plate of refried beans and other romantic observations." Now, are you excited? If everybody says yes to I'm excited about this, I will read the first page. I'll go a little over time because the free fall is only 1 hour, and Drexter needs his sleep so that he one day looks as good as Bulavi does, who works out a lot and runs into buildings and now is standing up on stage. God.
I'm trying not to move to step on anyone. Everyone is orange to me. Smoke.
Now don't step on the oranges, you squish them and the orange juice comes out.
Exactly.
Okay, so
I don't see any empty seats.
I'm gonna read introduction here from the book with the hilarious title "I'm More Dateable Than a Plate of Refried Beans" by Ginny Hogan. Here we go. It is really it is pretty funny. So here we go. Um,
I see an empty seat. I'm gonna take it.
I once spent 15 minutes telling my mother about a serious conflict at my job. I couldn't figure out how to adjust the height of my chair. She suggested I try the lever on the left, and as usual, she was
Mhm.
correct. After I unloaded my professional anxieties for another 15 minutes, she asked, "Are you having any fun, though? Like, are you dating?" I had to ask her to repeat the question. I was confused. I had never occurred to me that dating was supposed to be fun. When I was 15, I lied to the general public, my two friends, and said I'd kissed a boy I hadn't. When I was 16, I lied again and said I hadn't kissed a boy that I had. When I was 17, I got my first boyfriend, thereby marking the official launch of my love life. Since then, it's gotten a bit out of hand, spanning whole months of 5 OkCupid dates a week, serious relationships, monogamy, non monogamy, non monogamy, I believed was monogamy, dumping, getting dumped, 6 months or 11, depending on how you count, of celibacy, watching a man leave mid sex to eat peanut butter, eating peanut butter mid sex myself, same guy, we were together a while, drunkenly sleeping around every night, getting sober, relearning the basics of dating, another 6 months of celibacy, falling for someone I'd never met IRL, meeting someone in the middle of a pandemic, and sharing every last ghastly experience with my closest friends and Twitter followers. I once even quit dating altogether in a strategic move that was met with little to no resistance from the male community. I'm sorry, I have to read this again. I once even quit dating altogether in a strategic move that was met with little to no resistance from the male community. It's been exhausting, but at least I had peanut butter. It doesn't help my fatigue that dating has been turned on its head in the last decade. My mother once recommended that on first dates I ask the person, "What does IPA stand for?" That's honestly genius. How did she know that nothing hooks a man like the opportunity to talk about beer? Or more importantly, facts that he knows. But in general, aside from men loving to talk about themselves, dating is completely different than it was a generation ago. We're playing a brand new game in which people are all too quick to hide behind their phones, invent their own rules of civility, and fear any sort of stability. My mom is unfamiliar with the swiping and the ghosting and the breadcrumbing and the crumb betting and the way you can devote 17 concentrated hours to analyzing why your crush chose to like your Instagram pic of a pancake but not the one of French toast. And I often feel too silly to explain any of these phenomena to her, as I should. I grew up during a pivotal time for the way we approach dating and relationships. I graduated from an all girls high school in 2009, the year Obama took office, Circuit City went out of business, and Paris Hilton dazzled us by double fisting two bejeweled Blackberry handheld devices. The year 2009 was a transitional year for phones. Flip phones weren't quite out of date, and smartphones were still thrilling enough that we weren't yet at the point of regularly vowing to throw them into the sea. My freshman year of college, I got my first iPhone and my first daily dose of boys. So I had to learn how to text and date simultaneously. It was like trying to shampoo your hair and brush your teeth at the same time. Don't try it. No matter how busy you are, you will eat shampoo. All right. That's Ginny Hogan. Um, I'm more dateable than a plate of refried beans and other romantic observations. She's very funny. You can look at her website. She has like her stand-up comedy up there. So this is the first one we have a stand-up comedian on the show. We'll see how that goes. And folks, I'm gonna go to me immediately. Uh, I'm gonna go immediately to bed. It was a fun conversation today. It was very lively. Please befriend each other. Birgit Bloom already ghosted us. Where did she go? Birgit Bloom just poofs. Bulavi comes an hour late. I mean, what kind of class is this class? What ki- Does anybody care about time anymore? No, it was great, and thank you for the new folks, Grisha and Zaf Prime. I hope you come back. Um, it's awesome for you guys to chime in and open up the also with the avatar piece. Gives me a good idea maybe to do a themed free for all book club where we talk about. I think I made a list of like my 10 most important VR type books or books with like virtual worlds. That's your assignment, class. For the next free for all, bring your 10 top books that have that. Uh, oh, yeah, Zaf Prime. You know what? Talk about the dandelion wine. I mean, I'm not giving you like a school type of assignment, prepare the,
Send.
but yeah, be prepared to maybe come up on stage and talk a little bit about why you like this book, right? Um, oh, Birgit texted me. I still had YouTube going. I heard your comment about me leaving without saying goodbye. Okay, Birgit, you're all forgiven. She says sorry in private message here. Very good. Okay, it's popping up on the screen. I'm just joking. Now, yeah, Zaf Prime, awesome. Prepare that, and if anybody wants to prepare, let's just say your favorite book that deals with virtual reality, the Ready Player Ones, or the Snow Crashes. I actually am gonna play devil's advocate and kind of uh, bitch about Snow Crash a little bit, which was one of my favorite VR type books. There's a better one. It's called Permutation City. Just saying. Anyways, that's it. Last words, stranger.
Snow Crash, for what I'll say, is a ridiculous book. It's delightfully ridiculous, ridiculously delightful.
I heard there's
it's
two.
it's utterly over the top and
Yeah,
full of crazy, nonsense writing, but it somehow works. It's thoroughly entertaining and thought provoking,
I thought though Stokesh had a huge impact on me and many other people, of course. But there's these two German guys who have a progressive political podcast on YouTube. They talk about economic matters, but they also have book reviews, and they had an amazingly astute analysis of the metaverse proposals, the Zuckerberg proposal, and they talk about in the current capitalist framework, how the metaverse will basically be just another way to surveil people, all this kind of stuff that we know. And then they talked about Snow Crash, and they destroy Snow Crash. And I sent them a message and said like, you know, you destroyed one of my favorite books, but you're absolutely correct. And they just destroyed it in three ways: glossing over the structural issues of this future scenario. So they make a critique about that it's not like really I guess understanding the political and social implications of what they're talking about. They criticize it in terms of a very flimsy plot, even on its own merits. If it's if even if Neil Stevens were to say, well, I had no aspirations of making a political book, I just wanted to have like a fun romp. They destroy it on those grounds, compared to like uh Neuromancer or other books, or even or what Neuromancer is based on, noir and stuff. And then lastly, they destroy it in terms of the writing craft, and I think they're correct. So yeah. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna go to bed, and good night, everybody. I'm gonna befriend the new people and also our cat friend here. Sorry, I almost forgot you because you're here on the ground. No disrespect meant.
Hey, Draxter, I'm gonna put something in your. I'm gonna bring something into your space now for the first time.
Yeah.
It's called pop. It's called popology. I'm gonna give you a treatment on it in local chat or private, one of the two.
Yeah, send me private chat, and you know what? And I'm gonna send you my email, so you can ping me on email because that's my preferred way.
Sure.
And I'm gonna cut now the broadcast, and thank you also all the folks on YouTube.
All right.
Oh, Kitten
Enjoy.
is coming back here. Kitten. Oh, what is time but to stress people? What is time but to stress people out? Yes, Kitten, you're correct. But Kitten, I also need sleep, says Kitten on YouTube. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Next week, same time. Goodbye, and a little goodbye music.